Welcome back to Law Call. Ted Howell and Brian Connors with the law firm of Perry & Young here to answer your questions live and on the air regarding motor vehicle, truck, or other types of accidents. During the intermission, we got a phone call on the line from John from Bay County. John, go ahead with your question.
Trying to get my deductible back. 2 years ago, I was at a senior living center on Panama City Beach retrieving personal items from my stepmother who passed away. There was also several other people there. I was parked underneath the garage area. And a lady in a truck backed into my vehicle, caused over $1,000 worth of damage, and we had to pay it, our deductible up front, to get it fixed. And they were supposed to pursue getting our deductible back, but we never did get it back. Turns out that the lady who backed into us did not own the truck. She had rented the truck through a second-party company, and we never could figure out whose insurance would pay for the damage. So here we are. We're still trying to figure out getting our $500 back. And I don't know how this second-party rental company works, where you can submit your vehicle to them and they rent it out to other people.
Very
so
good.
That's where we're at.
Understood. John and Brian, explain just briefly the way it typically works, and then we can go over some of the specifics that John's dealing with.
It's slightly different when rentals involved. But if you go through your own insurance, generally your insurance, in addition to anything they pay, they have a right to subrogation, or that's a fancy lawyer word for reimbursement, to go get what your insurance company paid plus your deductible back.
Right.
And most of the time, your insurance company just handles that. So if the other party is Geico, they just submit a claim to Geico, Geico pays them, you get your deductible back.
They have a whole intercompany arbitration procedure that works fairly seamlessly outside of court in a normal scenario.
Most of the
But now John is dealing with a situation where there's maybe someone who does not have insurance or is complicated.
So it gets trickier. If it's a traditional rental vehicle, let's say Enterprise, we deal with them all the time. Enterprise doesn't have insurance, they're self-insured, but you go through a similar type process where your insurance company would submit it to Enterprise. If you are in a slightly different scenario, and I forgot what the app is called, where I can just rent my vehicle out.
There's Turo is one of the main ones. Get Along or Get a Ride, I think I've heard of recently. There's a few others.
Other, like Turo, which you're involved in right now. They have their own insurance as well. It's identifying the insurance company's kind of starting point, and that's why it's better to get a lawyer involved sooner rather than later. But generally, your insurance, they want to get their money back plus your money.
Right.
So normally they're incentivized to find that pretty quickly, and 2 years seems to be a long time, and there's a catch on that 2 year thing.
Right, because once you get past 2 years, you can be past the statute of limitations on getting the recovery of that, depending on when this accident happened. We had tort reform back in March of 2023, so anything before that had a 4-year statute of limitations. Anything after that has a 2-year statute of limitations, so there may be some problems there that would need to be addressed. But this driver has liability whether or not she has insurance or not, but the issue is that we go through frequently is just because you have liability and a potential avenue of recovery, that doesn't mean it would be a fruitful endeavor in order to actually put money in your pocket, because what you're wanting back is your deductible, not a judgment that you can hang up on the wall that shows that you need that money back, because you can end up just essentially throwing good money after bad and not get you to where you want to be. So it's important to right now, the first thing I would do is make sure you've reached out to your insurance company and get a status on where they are on that recovery process, because they want to get, as Mr. Connor said, they want to get their money back just as much as they need to get your deductible back and make you whole from this accident. So hopefully you can get some updates really quickly, John, because I'm worried about the time frame based off what you said.
That's the biggest concern. But again, while we're talking about rental vehicles, we are unfortunately very familiar with a federal statute called the Graves Amendment.
Yes.
So generally in Florida, the owner of a vehicle is as equally as responsible as the driver of the vehicle. That's not every state, that's very Florida specific. But if you have
No, the Graves Amendment is actually a federal statute.
well,
that
I know,
applies
but
across-
that's Florida.
Yes.
So in Florida, you can go after the owner and or driver if they're different. So if you think about that in a rental car
Correct.
capacity, you could go after Enterprise and there's no real cap because it's Enterprise, a big company. However, back in, I think it was 2014, they passed the Graves Amendment, which basically limits a rental cars company's liability to whatever the minimum is in that state. So in Florida, it would be $10,000 in bodily injury coverage, but in this situation, there would also be $10,000 in
property damage.
So even if it's a rental, Enterprise, Toro, whatever, Hertz, there's going to be something out there that you can go recover on, but it's going to be capped.
Correct. And remember, your auto insurance will follow you wherever you go. So for example, when you're renting a car, if you have Progressive insurance, your Progressive insurance is still going to cover you while you're in that car. But if you wreck that Progressive vehicle, they are still going to be able to come after you. You have your insurance to protect you, but they can still come after you directly.
So
as well.
that's the thing I probably see the most where there's an issue is someone is either hit by an uninsured driver or they are at fault and they didn't purchase the additional coverage, but their own vehicle's paid off so they don't have collision coverage. So in
Right.
that situation, if you didn't buy additional insurance and you're driving a rental car, when you sign that rental agreement, you promise to take care of that vehicle, and if it's damaged, you're responsible. Now, if somebody else is responsible, you go after their insurance. But if you are, or if it's a uninsured driver,
Right.
then you can be on the hook for the damage to the rental car.
You
and
absolutely
gets
can. It can be a very scary scenario.
a bad situation.
Right. So make sure if you're making the decision to not get the coverage at the rental car company, make sure you're making that with your eyes wide open based off of what the coverages are
That you
have on
Yeah.
your policy, to make sure that that is the appropriate decision, because you could potentially be on the hook even if you're not at fault. If someone hits you and they don't have insurance, they're
You
gonna
are still responsible
They may
to the
take the
rental
path of least resistance. It may not be the quote ethical thing to do, but legally they are entitled to do that.
Correct. And that's, I see it very rarely, but it does happen.